Revenge with Karen. Just check the spelling, he said, like I was his damn secretary, and not the woman who built the entire 60-page research report he was about to take credit for. I remember gripping my mouse so hard my knuckles turned white. My name scrubbed, my graphs mangled, and Doug was already shopping for cufflinks to wear at the policy summit like he'd actually opened a textbook in the last decade. That exact moment, I knew the rules had changed. This wasn't about collaboration anymore. It was about survival. And if Doug was going to play dirty, he had no idea what kind of glitter-gloved academic warfare I was capable of. I didn't come from privilege. I didn't have Daddy's consulting firm lined up as a fallback. I built my expertise clawing through think tank footnotes and spending weekends fact-checking journals most people scroll past. And this white paper, this was my damn shot. First time the exec team looked my way without asking if I could pretty up the formatting. By the way, real quick, before we dive any deeper, 97% of you listen to these stories without subscribing. Wild, right? If you're enjoying this tale of office betrayal and karmic justice, toss a like and hit subscribe. It takes half a second and seriously keeps our little revenge-fueled engine running. Thanks, back to the carnage. Email had come 3 months earlier. Subject line, Annual Summit Research Initiative, you're up. It was from our managing director, Ava. Now, Ava didn't throw around exclamation points lightly. The woman typed like she was chiseling Roman marble. So when she told me I'd be leading the creation of our flagship white paper for the Global Policy Summit, I damn near cried into my coffee. This wasn't just a chance to shine, it was the chance. This was the document that got cited in congressional briefings, picked apart on industry panels, and name-dropped on NPR segments. Doug, our VP of Strategic Comms and Human Beige Flag, called me to sync. He showed up 7 minutes late to our meeting, latte in hand, sunglasses still on, and said, "Let's make this pop. You do your research magic, I'll handle the polish. We'll co-own the narrative. Your name goes in the printed booklet." Cool. Except Doug's idea of handling the polish was forwarding my outline to his golf buddy at the Chamber of Commerce and asking if the word geopolitical sounded too aggressive. Meanwhile, I was buried. I worked through Thanksgiving. I had tabs open from JSTOR, IMF reports, Pew surveys, internal polling, and even a half-translated white paper from a think tank in Sweden that took me 2 hours just to decode. I triple-checked citations, built interactive charts, created 3 data models with pivot tables complex enough to give Excel a panic attack. I even flagged a few sources as verification pending, just in case. And because I'd been burned before, I embedded a forensic watermark schema into every data visualization. My initials, timestamps, a digital breadcrumb trail, invisible unless you knew where to look. Call it paranoia, call it insurance. I call it Tuesday. By mid-January, document was a living thing. It had breath, rhythm. It danced between macroeconomics and behavioral modeling with the kind of precision only someone who hadn't seen daylight in weeks could achieve. I sent it to Doug with a polite message. Attached is the finalized white paper draft. Let me know your thoughts. Per our agreement, I'll await the formatted version with attribution section. He replied, looks tight. I'll finesse the tone and make it pop. You crushed this. Spelling looks fine. No red lines, no track changes, no questions. Just a weird little emoji, clapping hands like I was a 3rd grader who finally figured out long division. Still, I clung to the handshake deal. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I was raised on too many hard work pays off bumper stickers. But I didn't know yet that Doug was already scheduling media interviews, already pitching his upcoming keynote as visionary. He was building the bonfire. I was handing him the matches. Doug's version of feedback was like trying to read a horoscope written by a blender. Make it punchier. What if we gave it more swagger? Feels too academic. Can we make it friendlier? Friendlier? What does that even mean? Should I slap a smiley face on the inflation curve and call it a day? I'd send him revised drafts, annotated, data clean, with references that could hold up in a Senate subcommittee. He'd reply with gems like vibes not quite right, or can we juice the hook? No notes, no specifics, just buzzwords he probably picked up from a podcast titled Thought Leaders Who Drink Their Own Kool-Aid. But here's what twisted the knife. I started hearing my lines in places they shouldn't be. Like one Tuesday, I passed by a virtual all-hands meeting Doug was leading. I wasn't invited, but his audio was still coming through the office speaker by mistake. There it was. Paragraph 3, page 16 of my paper, verbatim. A whole section I'd written about global regulatory friction, butchered slightly with some jargon salad, but still mine. I sat there, blinking at the wall, thinking, wait, why is he quoting my analysis to the execs without me in the room? That was the moment the optimism started to crack. I did what any woman with a digital paper trail and a rising sense of dread would do. I opened a private folder on my cloud drive titled Summit Receipts. I exported every version of the draft, saved Slack screenshots, starred emails. I timestamped each revision. I even pulled the commit logs from our SharePoint backups because somewhere deep in my bones I knew something was off. Doug, in the meantime, kept swinging between faux praise and condescension like it was a tennis match. One morning, he pinged me. Hey, just FYI, looping in the CEO on this. They're loving the tone, you're killing it. The next day, after I asked if I should join the pitch call to provide context, let's keep it lean. Too many cooks, you get it, too many cooks. I was the damn kitchen. Still, I played along, smiled in meetings, nodded when he said things like, let's keep this momentum, even sent him a follow-up asking for clarification on final attributions in the printed report. No reply. 3 days later, I saw the pre-press layout mock-up on his desk during a Zoom screen share. His name, bold, centered, serif font. My name, nowhere. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m. integrating a proper forensic watermark into the final dataset files. I wasn't taking chances. The watermark was discrete, layered deep inside the spreadsheet macros and embedded in the vector files of the charts. You wouldn't find it unless you knew where to look, and if you tried to scrub the data, it would trigger a time-stamped backup sync with my cloud repo. I didn't even tell my roommate. Just sat there in my hoodie sipping cold instant coffee and whispering to myself like some half-mad archivist. Not today, Doug. Not this damn time. I kept working. Kept improving the report, because part of me still held onto the myth that good work spoke for itself, that Doug might surprise me and do the right thing, that people like me could win by just showing up and grinding. But another part, the one filing away Slack logs and watermarking pie charts, knew better. Something was coming, and I was making damn sure the receipts would outlive the spin. It was supposed to be a dry run. A routine pre-summit check-in with the executive team. Contributors would present rough drafts, gather feedback, and refine before the big show. I logged in early, made sure my mic worked, checked that my notes were ready to go. Doug was 10 minutes late, no apology, just a smug little wave on camera as he shared his screen. And there it was. The deck, title slide, Strategic Horizons, a VP's thought leadership initiative. I felt my stomach drop straight through the chair. No co-authorship. No in collaboration with, just his name, over my work. The next slide. A pie chart I'd built at 2:47 a.m. 3 weeks ago, down to the exact shade of teal I'd used to signify emerging markets. He hadn't even bothered to change the color palette. He clicked through slide after slide, parroting my language, half mispronouncing acronyms he clearly didn't understand. I watched as my phrasing, my metaphors, my blood-on-the-page insights tumbled out of his mouth like he'd brainstormed them while shaving. And no one questioned it. Half the C-suite nodded thoughtfully. Someone even said, wow, Doug, this is impressive. Best we've seen in years. I unmuted. My voice was low, but steady. I'd like to clarify that the research and analysis for this report was conducted entirely by me. I'd submitted the draft for review and formatting, but I wasn't informed this would be presented under a different authorship. Doug didn't miss a beat, just leaned back in his chair like I'd interrupted his cappuccino. Oh, come on, he said, smirking, you did great proofreading. You helped shape the tone, sure, but let's not get bogged down in semantics. The room went quiet. You could hear the awkward inhale from the marketing director. I said nothing. Not yet. The CTO, bless him, glanced between us and asked, so who validated the sources? The models? Doug chuckled. It was a team effort, but I took the lead, obviously. And that was when I felt it, the split. That moment where you either dissolve into tears or calcify into something sharper. I chose sharp. I muted myself, stared into my webcam with the most polite, practiced expression I could muster and thought, so this is how it's gonna be. After the call, I emailed him directly. Subject, attribution. Hi, Doug. Given the nature of the project and our previous agreement, I'd like to revisit the authorship details before the final summit materials are published. I'm happy to escalate this to Ava for clarification if needed. He replied 2 hours later, let's not make this a thing. Everyone knows you helped. don't be emotional. This is how visibility works. I'm bringing the report forward, you'll benefit by proximity. Chill, don't be emotional. That was it. Phrase that unclipped whatever last thread of hope I was still clutching. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there in silence for 15 minutes, then opened my terminal, ran a timestamp on the draft file, and uploaded it to an encrypted backup. Then I opened a new document. Not for editing, not for contributing, for record keeping. Title: Doug Attribution Timeline. If Doug wanted a war of visibility, fine. I was about to become very, very visible. The Policy Summit was streamed live on 3 platforms, simulcast to partner think tanks, and hashtagged into oblivion before the opening remarks even ended. It was the Super Bowl of policy wonks, and there was Doug, grinning like a man who'd solved foreign trade with a bullet point list and a decaf chai. He took the stage to polite applause, adjusted his mic, and launched into my opener. In a volatile global landscape, stability isn't luck, it's leverage. My line, word for word. I watched from my desk, fluorescent lights flickering above me, half a bagel going stale beside my keyboard. He was presenting my report to a crowd of policy analysts, journalists, and donors like it had sprung from his skull, fully formed, like he'd wrestled the data himself, instead of lifting it from my drive like a bored raccoon. But it wasn't just theft anymore. It was distortion. One chart, originally a nuanced breakdown of energy subsidies across 3 decades, was turned into a splashy bar graph with no axis labels and a color scheme that looked like a melted popsicle. Another slide quoted a stat I'd flagged in red 3 weeks ago: verification pending. Do not cite. There it was, in 48-point font. 83% of global markets are poised for deregulation by 2026. Flat out false. Completely unverified. Original source? A random Medium blog written by someone calling themselves Bro27. My fingers clenched around my mug. Doug breezed through it like a TED hopeful on speed. As this research demonstrates, deregulation trends are accelerating. This is not speculation, it's data-backed inevitability. He even threw in a joke. If you don't believe me, just ask Bro. Polite laughter. My blood boiled. Then came the Q&A. Woman from Policy Watch stood up, holding a printout of the slides. She wore sharp glasses and an expression that said she'd smelled something rotten. VP Conroy, she said evenly, can you walk us through your source on slide 12? The 83% deregulation claim? Doug's face twitched. Of course, he said too quickly. That came from a synthesis of global indexes and forecasting models. Very technical stuff, proprietary. The reporter didn't blink. Could you specify which models? We haven't been able to verify that number in any of the IMF's recent publications. Silence. Doug coughed. Well, you know how quickly markets move. Sometimes you have to make strategic extrapolations. That was it, the moment. It wasn't a crash, it was a sputter. A glitch in his polished persona, a crack in the mask, and I saw it. I savored it. Because I knew what he didn't. The version he was presenting wasn't the final draft. It was an earlier copy. One I'd explicitly marked as unfinished. One I'd uploaded and archived but never approved. I could tell by the slide formatting, an old font I'd later replaced. I could tell by the missing appendix. I could tell because the watermark on that version had a different code, one that linked to my cloud repo and a time-stamped export file. Doug had grabbed the wrong weapon from the armory, and now it was misfiring in real time. The moderator stepped in. Let's move on, but it was too late. The chat was already buzzing. #83% started trending. Screenshots of the dubious stat began circulating. I didn't comment, didn't tweet. I just watched and smiled. Not because it was falling apart, but because it was falling apart exactly the way I designed it to if someone got greedy. By the next morning, the sharks were already circling. Policy Watch published a quiet but lethal takedown titled, Questionable Citations in Summit Keynote Raise Eyebrows. A subheading noted, Bro27 blog cited as authoritative source, blog now deleted. Someone had dug, hard and fast, and what they found was delicious. The blog post Doug quoted wasn't just unverified, it was satire. An Onion-style parody of deregulation culture, ending with a line about replacing central banks with Reddit polls. The author, who turned out to be a real estate agent with a crypto side hustle, confirmed it was a joke and had never been cited before in any serious forum. Doug had put that man's joke in front of federal regulators. Within 24 hours, 3 more outlets picked it up. By hour 30, someone on Twitter posted a side-by-side of Doug's slides and a Medium post from 6 months ago with the caption, "Did this VP just quote a meme blog at Global Summit?" The replies were merciless. But then it got better, because the industry started whispering. A retired analyst with 50K followers tweeted, "This feels familiar. Wasn't that data compiled by the firm's research team? I could swear I saw her name on early materials." He didn't name me. Didn't have to. My LinkedIn, which had been averaging 3 views a week, suddenly popped. HR managers, research directors, think tank fellows, all poking around. No DMs, just the quiet clicks of people sniffing a scandal and wondering who actually built the ship this idiot just steered into an iceberg. I still didn't say anything. Not on socials, not in Slack. I just logged in, checked my watermark logs, and smiled. Because here's the thing, the watermark wasn't decorative. It wasn't just a digital signature buried in a footer. It was a traceable schema. Every chart, every model, every export from the master dataset embedded a unique alphanumeric hash tied to my initials, machine ID, and timestamp. If you opened the document's raw XML or even just checked the metadata headers properly, you'd find it. Doug didn't, but a curious tech journalist did. Her name was Megan. She posted a thread, why the numbers in Doug Conroy's keynote don't add up, and how a little thing called metadata might explain why. Slide by slide, she dismantled it. Not just the fake blog, but the timestamps, the formatting quirks, the XML tags showing document authorship. Slide 12 hash, mine. Appendix BTKS creation date, mine. Table 4.6, built on my old MacBook, 10:43 p.m. Timestamp embedded. She tagged nobody, named nobody, just posted facts. By the end of the day, her thread had 40,000 likes, and a new hashtag was creeping up the sidebar. #VP copied her still. I didn't say a word, not out loud, not online, because this wasn't a defense. It was a slow-motion confession from Doug to the world, and I wasn't about to interrupt a man in the middle of his own downfall. By Thursday morning, couldn't even open Twitter without choking on Schadenfreude. #VP copied her was everywhere, trending in 4 cities, trending in policy Twitter, which is usually just charts and caffeine-induced doom-scrolling. But now it was blood sport. Doug's face was getting meme-ified into oblivion. Someone photoshopped him clutching a Nobel Prize made of plagiarism. Another showed him as a toddler holding a crayon-scribbled chart labeled "I did this." Media storm didn't start with a bang, it started with a ping. Megan, the tech journalist who sniffed out the watermark, had kept digging. She filed a public records request for presentation archives, dug into summit material logs. She found inconsistencies between versions. Then she found something better. She found my name. Not in the final slide deck, but buried in a draft upload log from 3 weeks earlier. A log that showed author, E. Ramos, co-author, null editor, D. Conroy. It was like finding my initials carved into the base of a stolen statue. Meanwhile, someone else joined the bonfire. Someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year, Tyler. Tyler was a former teammate who'd left the company to launch his own data consultancy. We weren't exactly close, just mutual respect and shared trauma from back-to-back budget cycles. But Tyler kept receipts, posted a 14-tweet thread. I worked with E. Ramos. I saw her build this paper. I saw the midnight emails. I saw the annotated sources and the revision logs. Doug once asked if macroeconomic was a made-up word. Let's talk about theft. Attached were screenshots, Slack messages, email headers, even a snippet from one of our shared Google Docs with my name clearly labeled in the activity log. It was like the internet had been waiting for permission to riot. Tyler handed them a megaphone. By lunchtime, The Atlantic published a piece titled "Intellectual Theft in the Age of Metadata, the Conroy Scandal." By dinner, the board had released a statement. We are conducting an internal review of our attribution protocols. The matter is being taken seriously. Doug, radio silent, no tweets, no interviews. Just one extremely awkward Instagram story of his dog with the caption, "Taking a break from the noise." Comments were savage. "Did your dog write the keynote too? Give him the credit, Doug. He deserves it more." Me? I sat in my apartment, lights low, sipping the same lukewarm green tea I'd forgotten about twice that day. I wasn't giddy, wasn't dancing in victory. I was in this strange state of cathartic disbelief. It was happening, without me lifting a single finger. The system that had ignored me, minimized me, made me invisible, was now devouring one of its own. All because I didn't erase the trail. All because I knew someday someone would want the truth, and I'd made damn sure the truth had timestamps. By Friday, the building wasn't metaphorically on fire. It was actively hemorrhaging smoke from every digital orifice the company had. Comms was scrambling like a cat in a bathtub. PR firms were CC'd. Legal was looped in. The CEO's executive assistant accidentally BCC'd the entire leadership thread to an intern named Grace who, bless her, promptly screenshotted the meltdown and leaked it to a Reddit thread titled Corporate Dumpster Fires. Doug, meanwhile, had gone from smug to ghost. His last tweet, a limp sometimes miscommunications happen, working to clarify, with zero engagement, vanished less than 2 hours later. His LinkedIn went into lockdown. His Instagram switched to private. But the real implosion, that happened behind the firewall, Slack. You could feel the shift in the digital air. People weren't whispering anymore. They were posting, screenshotting, bookmarking. The #general channel became a sarcasm Olympics. Excited to see Doug's next thought leadership paper, maybe this time he'll just quote Wikipedia and call it visionary. Anyone know if metadata counts as an intern's opinion? Junior comms specialist posted a gif of a raccoon stealing a laptop. It got 112 emoji reactions. Then the real damage began. An anonymous employee compiled a Google Doc of every public attribution Doug had claimed in the past 2 years, slide decks, interviews, blog posts. All were now under suspicion. The board stepped in. Finally, issued an emergency internal memo titled, Ongoing Concerns Regarding Authorship Integrity Immediate Review Underway, but it wasn't just a slap on the wrist. Legal had questions. Serious ones. Who owned the IP? Who had the original drafts? What version was presented at the summit? And who validated it? They wanted proof, paper trails, and I was ready. I didn't send a dramatic manifesto. No all-cap subject line. No flair. Just a single clean email. Subject, summit drafts and source chain body. Attached are the following: the original draft timestamped finalized, the edited keynote version Doug presented with metadata discrepancies, the embedded watermarking schema documentation, a download log showing Doug's access to version 4.3 beta, the incomplete draft he used. Please let me know if you require access to the version control system for verification. Best. Ramos. It was quiet. Cold, professional, surgical. 10 minutes later, I got a reply not from legal, not from HR, but from a board member. One sentence. Thank you, we see you. That was it. No fanfare, no confetti. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel like background noise. I felt like a signal finally cutting through the static. They scheduled the apology for Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, because someone in comms thought early damage control screamed integrity. Doug sat in front of a beige backdrop that matched the exact tone of his crumbling credibility. His usual smug smirk was gone, replaced by the damp, twitchy look of a man who had tried to bluff his way through a hurricane with a paper umbrella. The live stream started late. 5 minutes. Then 7. Then he appeared, and it was bad. Good morning, he began, already sweating. I want to address the confusion that has arisen regarding the authorship of the summit keynote materials. Confusion. His voice cracked mid-sentence. He read from the teleprompter like a kid being forced to apologize for biting someone at recess. Every few lines, he glanced nervously off camera, probably at some poor soul in PR mouthing, "Just read it, Doug. For the love of God, just read it. I regret any misunderstandings regarding the collaborative nature of the report, and acknowledge that certain processes around attribution were not followed to the standard they should have been." Translation. I got caught stealing, and now I'm being leash-walked through corporate purgatory in front of my peers. He stammered through a half-hearted admission that valuable contributions were made by members of the research team, without saying my name. Not once. But the chat knew. Viewers knew. The internet knew. Half the comments were hashtags. #VP copied her, #Doug plagiarized, #read your sources, Doug. The company released a statement 15 minutes later. We recognize that attribution protocols must evolve in step with modern collaboration. We regret any breakdown in process and are implementing new guidelines to ensure clarity and transparency in future reports, which is corporate speak for. We're pushing Doug off the iceberg while pretending it's a planned swim. I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't need to, because 10 minutes after the stream ended, I got the email. From Lyle Mark's Board of Directors. Subject: Strategy Consultation Opportunity. Erica, We've been following recent developments closely and would like to formally invite you to consult on upcoming policy initiatives. Director-level compensation, with flexible terms and full creative control. Let us know a time that works for conversation. Just like that. No meeting request, no application, just acknowledgement. And it felt good. Not in the way I expected, not like fireworks or vindication screamed from rooftops. It felt like equilibrium, like the balance had finally tilted, like the truth had been loud enough to shatter the silence that surrounded it. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Not because I was playing hard to get. Because I wasn't done watching Doug sweat. It happened on a Wednesday. The kind of gray, forgettable middle-of-the-week morning where office plants wilt and inboxes sigh. I made a cup of tea, fed the cat, checked the news, and opened LinkedIn with no plan other than to scroll past someone's third post about crushing Q3 deliverables. Instead, I typed a single line. When they say check the spelling, watermark the truth. No hashtags, no callouts, no tagging. I hit post and closed the tab. By lunch, it had over 20,000 reactions. By dinner, people from 5 countries had commented, researchers, professors, interns, even someone from the IMF who simply wrote, clapping, clapping, clapping. My DMs filled up. A data scientist from London wrote, you said what we've all wanted to say, brilliantly. A federal analyst shared it with their team Slack, adding, required reading before our next attribution review. A woman from a rival firm posted, I hope she got the job, the credit, and the raise. I didn't reply to most of them. I didn't need to. The post had already said everything. Doug, for his part, had been reassigned. That was the official term in the memo sent out Friday evening. Doug Conroy will be stepping into a newly defined internal role focused on special initiatives. Translation, Doug's office now has no window and a desk that wobbles. The man who once mocked me for being too academic was now doing data entry for compliance training modules. And me, I signed the offer Monday morning. New firm, global scope. Title, Head of Research Integrity. It wasn't just a promotion. It was a rebirth. Full authorship rights. Team autonomy. A research budget that didn't require begging. I sent exactly one resignation email. 3 lines, no explanation. Then I turned off my corporate Slack, deleted the desktop shortcut, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in a year. That afternoon, as I was packing up my apartment to move cross-country, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the text. Smart watermark. Smart woman, Megan, The Atlantic. I didn't reply. Just stared at the screen, a slow grin spreading across my face. Finally, not background, not support, not someone else's footnote. Seen, heard, and this time credited. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.